I love to see sparks fly. I purchased this old barn tent off of Facebook Marketplace, and my bearded brother-in-law stopped by to help me install it on the ceiling. Now Mandy always jokes that she loves the way that Cracker Barrel decorates, so we thought we'd just make her feel right at home. Admittedly, it was a little bit troublesome to cut notches around the supports and cut out for the receptacles in the ceiling, but all in all, I think we did a good job, and it looks great. There was one recorded injury where the bit slipped and went through my index finger, but that wasn't remotely safe for YouTube, so I just edited that part out. My young friend Eli downloaded something he shouldn't have, and his dad offered him up as free labor. He was a little scared of being on a ladder and had never used a drill, but a little patience and instruction, and he did a great job. I think it's important to pass on knowledge to the younger generation so that they can become craftsmen and builders as well. And with the final screws put in this piece, the ceiling is complete. When I mentioned earlier that Mandy likes the way that Cracker Barrel decorates, it wasn't a joke, and she chose this T111 siding that normally goes on the outside of the building to go on the inside of her walls. She will never admit it, but I think she felt pity for me because she knows how much that I dread and despise doing drywall. I did most of the wall install all by my lonesome, but my buddy Sean showed up and showed me the proper way to screw in a screw, which incidentally I showed him how to do several videos ago. All jokes aside, I was very thankful for the help, and it sped the process up greatly. The angle pieces at the top of the wall were a little bit tricky to get right, but after a few attempts, we nailed it. And after a bit of thought, the best way that I could come up with of covering these little cutouts behind the supports was simply super glue them in place. Now, I am not a plumber, but I did get water over at her shop using this plastic water line. No, I'm not using that for water line. I use 6-inch PVC as a makeshift valve box so that I could put a shutoff valve directly outside of her shop. With the frost line relatively shallow, I buried this about 10 inches deep and used the valve as a transition between the 1/2-inch plastic to 1/2-inch PEX, and covered it with my valve box. Yes, it is legal to shut the water off to your own house. And after doing so, I cut into this plastic water line that I ran to my shop years ago. I did ensure that I was using stainless steel hose clamps in order to give it the longest life as it's buried under the ground. Then I turned the water back on, leak checked it, and backfilled it all with dirt. I extended the pipe I added years ago as an RV cleanout, and utilizing the 1/8 inch of fall per foot, which keeps things going downhill, meant that this pipe was going to be relatively shallow once it got to her shop. But it is all underground, and I added that cleanout back right near the wall of her shop. Mandy did not approve of mounting the toilet to the flange as it is in this shot, so I had to build an elevated platform in order to have enough room to mount the toilet to the floor. Most toilets have to have a minimum of 12 inches off of the back wall to make room for the water tank. So knowing this, I laid out my interior supports to have the most support right underneath the toilet flange. Now, if you're wondering why I left a gap in the 2x12 on the top, that's simply because my board wasn't long enough. That's okay because each side of that is screwed to the wall, which gives it plenty of support. Terrible camera angle aside, I drilled a hole in the 2x12 for the sewer pipe to come through, and then had to notch that out for the Y that's going to pick up the drain for the sink that's going to be mounted to that wall. Now, like I mentioned, I'm not a plumber, and I don't know if this is right or not, but I do know that in order for the water to go down, it has to be replaced by air, and I added this 2-inch pipe going outside as an air vent. And to make that plumbing a little less unsightly, this will be covered up by cabinets in the future. And last was to glue and screw down the toilet flange. If that thing came off, it would be a bad day. Stay tuned for the next part. Thanks for watching.